Hello, this is the Under Eagle Mountain Making Podcast. Hello, welcome back to my podcast. My name is Laura and I'm a maker living in the northwest of England. And this is my podcast where I discuss what I've made, what I'm making and what I hope to make. That's my usual format. This time actually I'm going to focus on the latter of those things. So this is a sort of plans video. And really I'm looking at things that I might like to make over the course of the year. So from March now until sort of March next year. They're the things that I'm thinking that I would like to make now. They are definitely subject to change, I am sure. In fact, from when I wrote the list, I had to think about it over the past few weeks, and now I've already added a few things to it. So you know what it's like. Things change, ideas come, you see different things, you buy different resources, which I'm not meant to be doing, but I'm gonna be open and transparent and admit that I have. Different things come along and your ideas change. So whilst I'm thinking these are the things I'd like to make and use and so on and so forth, now that might change as the year goes on. I'm not going to hold myself to it. We'll just see how we get on. I've changed the angle slightly of the camera because sometimes I feel I'm very close up and I find it difficult to show things. So I'm hoping this is all right. Let me know if not. So I'll going to discuss knitting, sewing and natural dyeing because they're the three sort of main things that I do, and sewing includes garment sewing clothes and it'll involve sewing quilts. They're the two things that I make most. So I'll just going to go straight in. Start with knitting. I really want to try and finish the three things that I kind of started toward the end of the last year. There's the Wallerman shawl. I'll put a picture up. I'm very aware that I've never actually shown the bit of knitting I've done on that because it's still only about this big. I had intended to do a bit every week, but with all the problem with my hands, I haven't really done any. If this is the first time you've tuned into my podcast, I do usually do a lot of knitting, but I haven't been doing very much. Well, I didn't do very much from October to December, and then from December onwards I've done virtually nothing. I have done nothing for the last 5 or 6 weeks, nothing at all, because I've damaged, well, both wrists really, but my left wrist is much worse, and it's not getting better. So actually I can't decide whether this video is a good idea because it might be kind of, cheering me up, looking forward to things that I could be doing, that I might be doing in the future, or it might turn out to be really depressing and I might just feel really sad that these are all the things that I want to do and I don't know if I will ever be able to do them. I don't know if it's going to get better or not. We will have to wait and see. I've got a doctor's appointment next week and I'm going to push to be sent for a scan of some sort. Probably an ultrasound, I don't know, or my husband thinks maybe an MRI. So we will see if that shows up anything and if there's any sort of plan of action from there. But anyway, assuming that it all gets better and that I can knit again, I want to do some work on that Wallerman shawl. And I'm kind of thinking I'd like that done for when the cold weather returns at the end of the year. So, no rush. I would really like to get on with these. There's a pair of socks I started in November, I think. I'm sort of knitting them in tandem. This is knitted out of 100% merino sock yarn that I got undyed from Laxton's Mill when I went to Yarndale in September, and that I then dyed with avocado. I would really like to get on with these and get them done because I've got loads and loads of sock yarn that I dyed up that I want to just get through. But this pair of socks is particular in that it's a different base from the one that I have usually dyed. So normally I dye on 100% Corriedale yarn, which is a high twist sock yarn. This is high twist, but it's 100% merino. It is an awful lot softer. I like the way it dyed up. I like the way it feels to knit. So I'd be interested to see how it wears. Does it wear as well as the Corriedale? The Corriedale yarn has worn, I do wear the socks, 2 pairs of socks I've knitted in that. I knitted over the summer. I do wear those a lot, and they have held up. I have noticed the dye has faded quite a lot on the sole, on the base of the sock. I guess that's friction. It's not owing to washing, because obviously you wash the whole sock, and nor is it owing to being dyed by the light, because when does the light ever see the sole of your sock? So I think it is just the friction of it rubbing. I do wear my socks properly, I wear them out in my shoes, in my boots. I know some people just wear the hand knit socks around the house, but if I'm going to wear socks, I want to be able to wear them all the time. So there has been some fading on the bottom, but the rest of the sock looks great, and no signs of wear or holes or anything yet. So I'm really pleased with how they've held up. So I'm interested to see if the merino, which is much softer, holds up as well. So that is definitely on the list. But I need to make sure my hands are properly better if they do get better, because I think one of my friends said to me that maybe the small circumference knitting was making it worse, because I was doing socks and I was doing hats, and so maybe those really tiny movements, sort of what I think of as squirrel knitting, that's what I think of it, that maybe that was making it worse. I don't know. And then the third thing I really want to finish, because I was really enjoying doing it, and I was really enjoying the way it was looking on the whole, and I really want the finished project, is a sweater. It's the Easy V sweater by Boyland Knitworks, Caitlin Hunter. Sorry, my brain's like a sieve. So this is where I was up to. This, I'm not sure. I might like some advice. See what you think, seeing as I'm stalled on it anyway. There you go. That's the front. So it has this really big ribbed collar, which is like a really soft V, and then it goes into a colour work portion, which is like a deep yoke, and it's repeated again on the sleeves. I'll put a picture up. This bit I'm knitting with 3 strands of woolly knits, British yarns, 100% British yarn from Woolly Knit, in 2 strands of this sort of pale pink that's sort of flecked with pale blue and grey, and I think that's called Autumn Fire. Sorry, I'm trying to show you. So 2 strands of that. It's very fine, it's a lace weight. And then 1 strand of this, which is like a dark maroony colour, and it's giving this sort of mottled, mild effect. And I did want a mild effect, but I think I said it before, I'm not sure if it's too cool, like if it's a cool pink compared to this, and if it doesn't, I'm not sure if it really goes. What do you think? I keep thinking maybe I should rip it. I mean, I'd have to rip the whole thing out, rip it all the way back, and do 2 strands of the maroony colour and just 1 of the paler pink, so that this dark pink is like the more dominant colour. Or I have got like a cherry red, pinky red mohair that I could hold with the maroony colour, so you got a much deeper colour, much closer to this very top bit here. There's 3 different yarns in the colour work, and they're all Norro yarns. I haven't got the, I've got the yarn here, but I haven't got the ball band. These 2 are the same, and this one is slightly different. I think the information will be in a previous podcast or somewhere on my Instagram, but they're all Norro yarns. Sort of these 2 colour change, and this one doesn't. It stays that sort of pale pink. But I really like those, and I really like the way that's coming together, and those colours repeat again because the yoke's quite deep. But I'm just not sure about that, and I think because I'm not knitting on it, the more I sit and look at it, the more I think, But I also think it took ages to do that one by one ribbing with all the increases, and do I want to rip it all out? It might just be because I'm sitting looking at it, but I don't know. I just feel it's a different sort of tone, a different type of colour. Maybe the fact that I'm fussing and procrastinating gives me my answer. But if you have an opinion, let me know. It would help, I'm sure. So I kind of want to finish those things. And then the things that I had down, wrote them down. There were 8 things for knitting. And I'm not sure, even if I was knitting normally, I don't think I'd necessarily get to 8 different things over the course of a year. But these were the things that I had in my mind, and I was trying to focus on using up stash. As I talked about in a previous video, I did like a little stash tour, and I pulled out some stuff that I wanted to use. And the first of that, I didn't get it out. Was this. Sorry. It's a Wensleydale long wool, Wensleydale sheep, produce the finest and most valuable luster long wool in the world, spun in Yorkshire. It is really soft, it is really shiny, it's got a bit of tiny bit of fluff to it. It's very, very pretty. It's DK, but it's 235 meters to 100 grams. I think it's quite a thin DK. I remember when I first bought it, which was 2.5 years ago, something like that, I did knit up a swatch on 4mm needles, which is fairly standard for DK, and I didn't like the fabric. It was quite holey, if you know what I mean. It was a bit gappy. So either I'll have to go down to 3.5 needles, which is fine because you'd still get the same gauge. It's not extra knitting. It feels like it'll be loads of extra knitting on small needles, but if you're knitting on smaller needles to get the gauge of a larger needle, it doesn't make any difference, does it? I'm waffling. Anyway, my plan for that, I think, is a long-sleeved Tolster t-shirt. So Rebecca Clout did, everybody I know, I'm sure, will know the pattern, a Tolster tee. In fact, I have one on in this sort of chartreusey green. It's just a really simple raglan t-shirt, but last year she added to the pattern to add long sleeves, and I think a long-sleeved white or just off-white t-shirt would be like a really good, simple, basic layer to have. And I think I might try and do a little picot edge on the neck and the sleeves, and maybe even on the bottom. I think that would look really pretty, and I think would kind of go with the simpleness of the cream yarn and everything. So that is a plan. That is something that I definitely want to do. Whether it would be the first thing I picked up and did, I don't know. Another really simple kind of basic t-shirt I want. I would really like a long sleeved t-shirt, probably not with loads of ease, but I want like a button down here. So often it's called a Henley. Now there are lots and lots of patterns out at the minute for Henleys, but I feel they're all jumpers. Like they feel like they have a lot of ease, they're a bit chunky, they've got a chunky collar. I know Rebecca Clout is at the minute kind of doing one, and there are some others out there. So there is one called the Bernie. I can't remember who it's by. I'll put a picture up and I'll put the details down. That's one, and I can't think. There are a few, but they're in like thicker wool, or they look a bit chunky and they're a bit jumpery, and I don't want that. I want a t-shirt. So I did find one, and it's called the Driftwood. And I do know who it's by, but I can't remember. I'm really sorry. It's a free pattern. Now, it's quite an old pattern. I think it's from sort of 2011, something like that. It's free. It doesn't have a brilliant size range. I think the upper bust circumference is something like 52, 53. It's not up to 62, which I think is like the minimum if you're being size inclusive. I wouldn't normally buy a non-size inclusive pattern because I would prefer to support designers that are designing for everybody. However, it is an old pattern and it is a free pattern. So I think older patterns, I don't think it was, rightly or wrongly, it wasn't in people's consciousness in the same way as it is now. And I think for a free pattern, you know, designers might still be they're spending lots of time doing it. They might be investing in paying for a tech editor, stuff like that. But if they're offering it up for free, you can understand maybe that they limit the sizes. So I've decided that I am going to knit it because it's just perfect. It's the first one. You can see it's got like quite a deep button placket, but it's just got little rolled hem at the neck, at the wrist, at the bottom. So it's really, really simple. And before my hand went wonky, like properly wonky, at the end of the year, I did do some swatches. I showed this yarn in my yarn stash. This is, again, a Laxton's yarn. It's Laxton's Wool Trace, and I think it's called Frosted Fir or something like that. Frosted Pine, Frosted Fir. It's a really nice, soft, cool green. It's not dissimilar to this actually, which is a Let Lopey, but I think this is a bit warmer and it's got flexi yellow in, whereas this is definitely cool. Frosted is a good word for it. And I knitted it up. So let's have a look. I've got here. The desired gauge is 19 stitches by 26.5 rows to get you 10 centimeters squared. And she recommends, I think, a 4.5mm needle. That gave me 18 stitches by 25 rows unblocked and 18 stitches by 26 rows blocked. I then tried on 4mm needles just to see, but that gave me 20.5 stitches by 26 rows, so was like too far off the other side. Now obviously probably what I should do is then go for a 4.25mm because that might land me bang in the middle, but I don't have that size needle and I don't really want to go and buy them, so I'm just going to go with the 4.5. I quite like the fabric, so that's the 4mm. That is a nice dense fabric. Do like it. This is a bit gappier, but I think once up against something won't look gappy, I don't think. And given that I'm planning on wearing this like a t-shirt, so in the winter when it is very cold, you know, a knitted t-shirt with a knitted jumper or a knitted t-shirt with a knitted cardigan, like, it is not too much. Here in the north of England, I know it's not the coldest place in the world, but it does get pretty cold. So I think maybe having a little bit of breathability is probably a good idea to kind of reduce sweatiness when they've got wool upon wool. So I'm kind of good to go with that. I've done the swatching. The yarn is, I've lost the ball of yarn. Oh, it's here. The yarn is balled up, so I'm all ready to go. That would be a nice easy knit, and I think, as I was saying before, like maybe not jumping straight back into small circumference and maybe not jumping back into colour work, because that was colour work and I was doing those colour work hats. If you've been here before, you'll have seen them. I did lots of like checkerboard hats for Christmas presents, and that was small circumference and colour work, and I think maybe all of those things together were just putting strain on my wrist that was unusual for it, maybe. I don't think that's the cause of the wrist problem, but I think maybe it like exacerbated it. So yeah, that's a simple one. Now, you might have spotted this yarn. I bought 2 lots of new yarn. One of them I'm not at all apologetic for. It was an undyed yarn. I have currently got it scouring, so it's kind of, well, I've scoured it this morning, so I've washed it this morning and it's sat in water just cooling down because I'm going to dye it, and that is, I'll put a picture up, it's 100% British wool. In fact, it's all off one farm in Somerset. It's a Poll Dorset, is that right? Yep, a Poll Dorset wool. It's 180 meters to 100 grams, so DK. And as I say, it's a woman who has the yarn spun, and she dyes some of it herself, and all the wool comes from sheep on her parents' farm. So that's really nice. It's really nice to know exactly where the wool's come from. It's not a mix or a blend. It's not a breed that I've used before, but as I say, she dyes it up herself and says it takes the dye really beautifully. It's a really nice yarn. It's quite bouncy. It's a 3-ply. It's quite bouncy, but it's quite firm. Like, it's not really soft. It's quite firm. It's quite toothy. Like, it feels like a proper rugged woolly wool. It's got a tiny, like the tiniest of halos, so just a tiny bit fluffy. I'm really looking forward to dyeing it up. And yeah, and it was dead cheap. It was like, I've written it down, £6.50 for 100 grams, which I think is a really good price on Etsy. It's called Orchard Yarns. I presume Somerset, her parents probably have apple orchards too. So if you're looking for some undyed yarn, I would recommend that. Obviously, I've not dyed it yet and I've not knitted with it yet, but so far so good. And it's really nice to support like an individual rather than just a big company. And it was like really, really well priced for, you know, something so special. So I think with that I would like to knit a cardigan. I really, really, really want to get on the red cardigan bandwagon. There's lots of really lovely ones. Everybody's kind of knitting with that really sort of bright red, like poppy red. I've seen some jumpers, seen some cardigans. My favourite cardigan at the minute is from a textile artist called Jessie Cuts, who, I don't think she's on YouTube. She has an Instagram account called Cuts and Son, or she has a personal one called Townley Terrace. I'd recommend, I'll put those in the description. I'd recommend her Instagram accounts. Her artwork's lovely. The house she's doing up with her husband is beautiful, and she puts in the odd bit of knitting, and she's knitted a really, really lovely bright red cardi. And as I say, I've seen quite a few around and I really want one. So my plan, I was going to say was, it maybe still is, when I go to Woolly Good Gathering at the beginning of April, like, I think it's probably unreasonable for me to go to a yarn festival and not buy any yarn, but I was going to try and be really specific, and I was just going to look for some DK red yarn in which to knit a cardigan, and I have narrowed it down. I would like to knit the Better Waverley cardigan by Taylor E. Owen. She's on YouTube and she's on Instagram. I'll put a picture of the cardigan up. I think this came out last year and immediately I loved it. It's really big and boxy, like at the top of your body, so there's lots of room. I think she designed it specifically to be able to wear it over other knitwear, like over jumpers. So it's got lots of room under the arm, it's got lots of room around the bust, but then because she didn't want it all like big and baggy around the back, and she didn't want that back flare that you sometimes get, she then has really dramatic waist shaping that comes down to quite a deep rib, and I think it just gives a really lovely shape. So it'll look nice over dresses, but it'll look nice over like with trousers and stuff, and it'll provide some sort of shape rather than just a sort of, you know, sometimes they can just look, and I do quite like that look, but I think this will provide a different shape for cardigans that I've knitted in the past, and that's definitely what I want to knit. I'm really, really looking forward to it. So I'm going to try so in this next month, before I go to Edinburgh for the Woolly Good Gathering, where I'll be looking for red yarn. I might try and dye that Paul Dorset yarn red first, because if I could dye it myself, that's even better. I've got enough of it. I think I haven't gauge swatched, but I think it should be about right in terms of meters per 100 grams. I did look and double check, and I think it's okay. So yeah, that's my plan. We'll see how it goes. So I was on Etsy looking for the undyed yarn, and also spotted this. This is undyed. It's 100% Jacob, again from a single source, and I think it's quite an interesting yarn. So they've just dyed the fleece as it's come. So, you know, a Jacob sheep is white with very dark brown splotches, like really lovely chocolatey brown. And it's sort of like a two-ply. It's a single ply, like unspun yarn, but then round it, it's got what's called a binder. So a very, very, very thin, like it's like sewing thread thin, dark binder all the way through. So the binder is all one colour, it's all dark yarn. But the unspun centre is a mix. And you get this, it's just, I think it's absolutely beautiful. And as you can probably see here, I'm in a very brown and cream phase. And I was looking at it and I was like, oh, Laurie, you're not meant to be buying yarn. Like, I don't know, I don't know, but it's so beautiful and blah, 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 blah. That's still a DK, but I think quite a thick DK. It's 175 grams per 100 grams, and I got 6 skeins of it. So I think I'll be able to knit some sort of more Aran weighty patterns. And actually the pattern I'm hoping to make with it, again thinking of just a nice simple pattern, easy on my hands, but pretty. I think I would like to make a tulip sweater by Bee Mandarins or Melody Hoffman. I do already have the pattern because I knitted one for my daughter probably a couple of years ago now. It's looking very short on her. She still wears it a lot, but it was quite cropped to begin with, and now it's very cropped. Hers was in black because she's a teenage girl and she loves a bit of black. But yeah, I've got the pattern, and I've always intended to knit myself one, and I think that this will knit up to be about the right gauge. It's a bit tricky because Melody Hoffman's is knitted in 2 strands of Newton, and Newton, I've never had any, but as I understand, it gets spun up slightly differently every time, so it can sometimes come out a bit thicker or a bit, you know, a bit lighter or a bit heavier. But anyway, that's my hope. Looking at the meterage, that's my hope that I'll be able to knit with that. And I'm really excited. Like, I think if, like magic, I woke up tomorrow morning, my hands were perfect and I had no problem and I didn't need to be careful, I think that would be the first thing I would knit, because it feels lovely. It smells a bit sheepy. It's really soft, I guess because it's not spun. And I think I'm very excited about that. So that's where we are. And then I do have a few other things. I'm thinking about a dress, maybe the Hilja or Hilja dress that's been around, and I would use a different woolly knit yarn, 100% British yarn from Woolly Knits that I've got. I think it's called Harvest. It's like a goldeny colour. I was going to get out. Never mind. I've shown it in a couple of previous episodes. I've been dyeing up over the course of the last year. I've been dyeing up a Shetland yarn. This yarn, I bought it on a cone from, I think, World of Wool, off their website. It's 100% Shetland yarn. I think it's called Brerwick yarn on the website, and it looks quite thin, but when you dye it up, it blooms lots. It's really soft and bouncy. It's lovely, and I've dyed it up in all sorts of different shades. Like, every time I've done a dye bath, I've plonked 20 grams in, or last spring I tested some plants that I hadn't dyed with before, like ground elder, and I just did little small dye baths with 20 grams of this in. So that's how it started, really. I was just testing different things and seeing how they came out and what they were like. But I've now got this box. I'll put a picture of it in rather than go rummage in the cupboard of doom for it. But I've got loads and loads of different colours. So I want to knit some sort of colour work yoke. And I'm thinking I would like to knit the Dodie sweater. And maybe, if that went well, the Mortmain cardigan. And they're both DK colourwork yoke patterns by Susan Crawford from her book Echoes. So it was written by Echoes is a book that each pattern is inspired by a woman who has been important to Susan Crawford. So Dodie Smith wrote the book I Capture the Castle, and the family name in that is Mortmain. So that's where the name for those two patterns came from, and it's like a little twin set. I'll put a picture in because, again, I'd have to rummage to get the book. I did not plan very well for this, obviously. But I would like to do those two things, but I think I'd be lucky to get to those, if I'm honest. And then the last thing on my list is a maybe. Anna Hosford, who is here on YouTube and on Instagram, has currently got, I think, like 3 separate patterns that she's kind of designing and testing and so on and so forth that I really like and I really want to give a go to. But one of them is a colourwork sweater, and I think like her working name for it is the folk sweater. I'm not sure. She said she might change the name when she releases the pattern, but it's got sort of a traditional Swedish like flower motif, and it's sort of a cone shape flower. To me, they kind of look like foxgloves. I know that's not what they're meant to, because I think the tops are leaves and then the flowers at the bottom. But that looks really lovely. But that's knitting Let Lopi. So the wool I'm thinking of using is a bit thinner than that. It's the background would be a Laxton's yarn that I dyed up with birch bark, so it was like a marled yarn of a cream and a grey together. So it was sort of started as an oatmeal colour, and then I dyed it up in a birch bark bath, which really just warmed it up, so it looks like a really warm, ever so slightly pink oatmeal colour now. And then I've got I'm just trying to see if I can find it, and then I've got I'm going to have to do major tidying up now. So this is it. It just, like, I don't know really that you'd think it had been dyed, except there is a bit of tonality to it. But it just makes it a really lovely warm colour. I really like it. And then I've had this, which I think I would use for the colour work, which is Hearth DK by Woolly Mammoth Fibre Company. Emma Robinson's the dyer, and this is, both of them are 240 metres per 100 grams, and this is 50% Jacob and 50% BFL. This is, smells nice. I think this is BFL, 100% BFL. Can't quite remember, but I think it is. So they're the same weight, and they've got at least some of the same fibre content, and so I think they'll go really nice together. I think the colours look nice together. I've got a bit more of this because this is this colour, I think it's called dark chestnut or roast chestnut, and this I had for when I did my heirloom quilt cardigan, because I was going to use this for the sleeves. So I've probably got, this is 100 grams, I've probably got 40 or maybe 40 or 50 grams left over, because this is what I was going to use to sleeves, and then ultimately I didn't, and I didn't put sleeves on it at all. I made it into a vest. So I've got 1 and a bit skeins of that, which I think would be enough. And I think it would be really nice together, but I don't know that it would be thick enough. So I'll have to come up with a different plan. If not, obviously. But again, I don't know if I'll get to that this year. This is all sounding very hopeful. So that was a bit of a whirlwind through my knits. I think finished the socks, finished that Easy V, because I did buy the Nora yarn specifically for that, and it will use up those cones of, or some of those cones of woolly knit, and maybe some mohair if I go that route, and that was all from Stash, so that'd be good. The driftwood in this green, and again that's from Stash, so that's good. The cream Tolster, that's from Stash, that would be really good. And then I'll probably continue to dye on this, and the Mortmain and the Dodie, using those. And I don't know what I'd use for the main colour for that. I don't know if I'd dye up enough yarn in one colour. I don't know if I'd just leave it natural. I don't think I'd have enough. I think I'd have enough to do the t-shirt on this comb, but if I wanted to knit the cardi as well, I'd have to buy some more, but that's fine. I could do that. I wouldn't mind doing that at all, because it's really good for dye experiments. So yeah, and the Wellerman shawl, don't forget that, need to do that too. And then of course this, I think that will be the first thing I knit. I don't know, like I say, currently this is my current passion. This is what I'm obsessed with knitting up, but that may change if that red yarn turns out nice for the Better Waverley, or if I buy a really nice red yarn. I might jump the queue. Just never know. It's like so exciting. So moving on to my sewing plans. Again, I had a sort of make 8. Now I know people tend to do make 9, but for me, I just got a piece of paper and I folded it into 4, and that gave me 8 things. So that's why there's 8. There's nothing more exciting to it than that. And on this, which is exciting, I've already done 2 things. So I had my cord caladium jumpsuit, which I think I showed in my last podcast was started but not finished. I have finished that. I might have a video of me in it, but I'm not sure. If not, I'll put a picture up and I'll talk about it in my next proper podcast, definitely. And then the other thing on it was a Bilbo vest made in the same thing, and I'm actually wearing that now. So we had this lovely vintage cotton. For me, it is the lining. The vest is reversible, so I could put buttons on this side too, and it would be reversible. But I didn't. I think that's maybe a bit too jazzy as a jacket, I think. But again, I'll go into this more detail in a proper podcast, but I have finished that and I'm really pleased with it. I've worn it quite a bit actually. And I think because of not being able to knit, and because I do really miss it, even though I'm able to sew things on the sewing machine, and I'm able to dye and do some other crafts. Like I don't know, I feel a bit sad about the not knitting, and it's somehow limiting my enthusiasm for other things. And the only thing that I started and really, really loved doing was this vest. Like I was really keen to do it, and then once I started it, I really enjoyed the process, and I just wanted to work on it lots and lots. And I did make it in quite a short space of time, I think, because of that motivation to get on and do it. And I've not really got that for anything else. So to me, the obvious thing was make another one. And I know quite a few people have made this. Olivia Orchid's Heart on YouTube and on Instagram has made one, and Sarah on Fibre Trek on YouTube. I will put the names, I will try really hard to remember to put the names of the people I've talked about below, so if you want to go and look at their accounts and look at their versions, you can. Sarah on Fibre Trek has made one too, and both of those ladies have said, yeah, I'll be making others. And it is a bit like that. because it's a really comfy, really good layering piece. But I think I would make a slightly different looking one. So I'm tempted to just cut a bit off the shoulders. I do quite like the boxy fit, and particularly because mine is very cropped. You can't see, but in the pattern she has a cropped version and a slightly long version. I made the cropped version, but I also took an extra inch off purely because that was the length of lining fabric that I had, so it wasn't a design choice as such. I just really wanted to use that fabric. But I did check, and it kind of sits exactly at the narrowest part of my waist, so where my trousers comfortably, naturally want to sit, or skirt, if it's elasticated waist, they kind of slip to that place, and the bilbo vest meets exactly at that point. I think I'm a little bit shorter than the designer Lorna of Thread and Yarn, that's the lady, and so I think it probably hits me in the same place that it hits her, even though I made mine a bit shorter. But I thought I might make the longer line version, which means I possibly don't want it to look as boxy, because I think that might start to make it look a bit masculine if it's both wide and long. So I might just take a bit off here, and then at the front, you see at the front it's squared off, but I'm quite tempted to curve it off so it kind of matches the curve on the front there. I'm quite tempted to then curve that off so you get a more sort of waistcoaty shape at the front. So that's what I'm thinking. And being really upfront, I did buy fabric because I didn't have. I decided, I want to make a bilbo vest. That's what I want, and I didn't really have any fabric that was A, either suitable, or B, that I really wanted, or C, that would really go with my wardrobe. I know Lorna has a really beautiful patchworked one, the designer, but I couldn't decide if that was a bit out there for me. I don't know if I wanted that. So I decided I wanted a brown and cream one. And actually I want the side that I wear the most just to be cream, just to be plain. So I did buy a metre of two fabrics from Merchant and Mills. So probably the outside fabric will be this. It is an ecru denim, and it's just got, I don't know if you can see, it's got very tiny little brown flecks in it. I'm trying to decide if it does have flecks in it or if that's just come off the wool. I don't know, but either way, it's this sort of cream denim, and then the inside, but I probably would make it so you could flip it round, because this is not too jazzy. This is 100% wool, so it's like a coating wool. So I think that's the right side. The wrong side is all fluffy. That's the right side. A really nice cream and chocolatey brown weave. So I think that would look really nice with my jumpsuit in this cord, because I think maybe a cord jumpsuit and a cord bilbo vest might be a bit much. Whereas I think this would look really nice with it. I've got if I had it cream side out, I think it would go nicely over that. And over this, which I'll come to in a minute, and then also just like, I've got, if I've knitted that long sleeve Tolster in the cream, and I've got sort of cream blouses, and I've got like a pink blouse that would look really nice underneath it, this sort of pink that I think would go with it. I think brown and pink look really lovely together. This sort of pink, in fact. So yeah, I think it would go with loads and loads of things, and it was a bit of a splurge. They're both from Merchant and Mills, so it was a bit of a splurge, but yeah, I was feeling a bit sad and in a bit of a slump, to be honest, and the idea of making another bilbo vest really kind of cheered me up, and so I thought, oh, just do it, just be kind to yourself, just do it. There's no reason. The low buy, and it is a low buy, not a no buy, but that's something I've imposed upon myself, and I think it is something I need to think about, because I do have lots of fabric, but I'm making excuses and I don't need to. I've chosen to do it and I'm doing it. Right. So then the other thing I really wanted to make is a dress out of this fabric. This is 2 meters of linen in cream and brown. There's a theme that my dad and stepmom bought me for my birthday. It's also from Merchant and Mills. It's 100% linen. It's quite a thick linen. It's nice. And I think I'm going to make a hinterland dress. I really like hinterland dresses. You see them everywhere. I've put off buying the pattern for ages and ages and ages. Don't really know why. I like the fact that you can button placket, no button placket. It's got a little waist tie so you can pull it in at the waist, so it's got a bit more shape to it than most of the dresses I make. Most of them are sort of empire line and then like flow from there, which are super duper comfy, but it would be nice to maybe have a dress that's a slightly different shape. So yeah, I eventually gave in, bought the pattern last year, but wasn't sure what fabric I wanted to use, so that's it. I'm going to make that. I think that would look nice over the top with a bit of flash of the brown plaid lining inside. I think I will make a long sleeve one, maybe a 3/4 length sleeve one, so that it would do all year, rather than just like a linen dress for the summer. I'd like to be able to layer it up, so that's my plan for that. And then the other thing, now this is not on my list at all, let me have a look. Brown cladium, hinterland, bilbo vest. I also have got on here some patterns, 2 new patterns. There's a ginkgo pinafore. Lots and lots of people are making that at the minute. And then there's also the aura pinafore. I will try and put pictures of both of those up. They're both quite similar in that they have a very deep V at the front. I've discovered this by looking at my Pinterest page for you know, I have a board for clothes that I like and for styles that I like and stuff. Again, I'll try and put some pictures in if I can. But looking at it, there were lots and lots and lots of dresses or jumpsuits or whatever that had this very deep V at the front that you would then normally wear something obviously underneath. And so that's how I ended up making the cladium jumpsuit, because that is that shape at the front. But both the aura pinafore and the ginkgo pinafore have that option of a really deep V, and they're quite similar. Now the aura pinafore is an older pattern, and I do have that pattern, and I have seen it's one of those things, if you look at it, on some people it looks really, really super and really lovely, and other people it just looks like a massive shapeless tent. And I can't figure out what it is. I don't know if it's the fabric. I think the stiffer the fabric, the more kind of tent shape it looks. I think the floppier, flowy fabric gives a more, to me, a more appealing shape. But I also, if you look at the sizing, it has quite a lot of ease. So I think I would make the 3rd size, I think, to, according to their measurements. But I would fit in the 2nd size just with a lot less ease. So I've kind of hummed and hard, whereas the ginkgo pinafore, it's one of those that you kind of put on and it's got a separate front and back. So you tie it round one way and then you tie it round the other way, so you can fit it to your shape, or you can have it as loose or as tightly fitted as you wanted. And so I've got the aura one, the pattern for that, and so maybe I should do that. But then I had a dress that I was bought a few years ago, and it was a lovely dress in lovely fabric, but it was absolutely massive on me. It was loads of fabric, it was all gathered, and it just looked, I just was swamped in it. I'm 161 centimetres, which is about 5'3", and I think it was made for somebody with a bigger, taller build. So I decided this is the dress part of it. and then the sleeves, because there was so much fabric, the sleeve, I could get like a top piece of the Aura Pinafore out of each sleeve, like a front piece out of one sleeve and a back piece out the other sleeve. What I couldn't get was enough fabric to make the lining, because it is fully lined. So I just sort of did a naff facing, which I would then, I think I need to sew down because it's popping up. But I decided I would do like a toile, and if it fit nicely, I was just going to sew this onto skirt to make it like an empire waist type summer dress, like pinafore dress, as a sort of toile to see if I wanted to use the 4 meters of fabric that I've got to make an Aura dress, or if maybe I'd go for the ginkgo. My answer is I'm not sure. This is the size 3. Just ignore that bit popping out because it's a bit annoying. This is the size 3, and I accidentally cut out the size with the darts. For my bust, I've got a 35-inch full bust, so I don't need the one with the darts, but that's the one I did. But actually, it kind of looks all right like that, but when you put it on, it kind of is really wide on the shoulders and it hangs off my shoulders. So this one is definitely too big. So I wouldn't make the dress in a size 3. So now I'm thinking, do I just give it up and think, oh, I'm not making that? Or should I make a toile out of the size 2? I've got like old bed sheets and stuff that I could just make a little practice one in, because also once you've got a skirt on and it pulls it down, I couldn't make it all in one piece the way the pattern does, because I was making it out of an old garment. But yeah, I'm kind of on the fence about that, which again hasn't really helped me think, oh yeah, I want to do sewing, because I'm wrong, you know how it does. So I'm just going to make a skirt out of the, look, I've kept the bottom hem and everything, so I'm going to make a skirt. I think I will make one of Lorna's bramble skirts. Lorna at Thread and Yarn, who designed this, also designed a skirt called the Bramble Skirt, which I've made before, which is just a 2-tier gathered skirt with an elasticated waist, and I think I can just about make one the same length as the previous one. I've got a video of me wearing one, I think, so I will put that in if I have. If I've not, sorry. But just like a really simple skirt out of that, so it's not to waste fabric, and I really like it. And I was thinking, doesn't that look nice together? I have a definite palette, because look, you know, it all kind of, well, that's nice though, isn't it, that it all goes together. So that's kind of where I am at with the sewing. And then I've got some fabric to make another pair of trousers. I might just make another pair of bob pants, but I was thinking about Vivienne Xiaochen's bisque trousers, which are elasticated waist, but slightly posher, I would say, slightly more dressy than the bob pants. And it might be a nice idea to give something else a go. So yeah, I've talked for a long time about those two things, so I'll go quite quickly through the last things. I might just, because I'm not feeling very inspired about sewing, I might just make some cushion covers out of these 2 pieces of fabric. These were the fabrics that I had left over when I did some bundle dyeing. They're really pretty. So I've got the fabric, I've got the cushion inserts, I just need to kind of crack on and do that. So that is on the list. The last thing that I'm going to talk about is dyeing. So obviously I've talked about dyeing the Pole Dorset wool, and I'm going to aim for a red. I want quite a deep red, so I'm going to do something which I haven't done before with wool. I do it quite routinely with fabric, which is I'm going to pre-mordant the yarn with a tannin. So if you're dyeing with either fabric, if you're dyeing either fabric or yarn, you have to wash it first to make sure that there's no wax or spinning oil or dirt or whatever, which will stop an even coverage of the dye, you know, of the dye stuff taken. So I've done that, and then with fabric, cotton or linen fabric, usually what I would then do is pre-mordant it in a tannin. So you would mordant That's what it's called, any fibre before you dye it, because the dye sticks better to the mordant than it does to, like, the mordant sticks to the fibre and the dye sticks to the mordant, and so it improves colour fastness. And the most common mordant that dyers use is an alum base, like an alum salt. Oh, I never talked about this. I'll talk about that another time. But with fabric, you often pre-mordant with a tannin. So that's sort of like the browny colour that you find naturally in plants. It's like the colour that you have from a tea bag. And the mordant sticks really well to the tannin. So you end up with like this chain. You have like these different things that hold hands. You know, the alum holds to the tannin, and then the colour holds onto the alum, and then so you get like a really good deeper colour, but also a better colour fastness. But I've never done that on wool, so I'm going to try it. I'm going to put that yarn into a tanning bath today, and I'm just making it my own tannin pre-mordant out of alder cones. We've got lots of alder trees around here, and we've had loads of wind, so I've got loads and loads of them. So that would just come out like a very pale sort of beigey browny colour, and then you would dye I'd mordant that then with the alum, and then I'd put it in the dye stuff, and I'm going to use madder. I've still got some madder extract that my husband bought me, and I'm going to use that. So hopefully it would just help to deepen that colour slightly, and will help with the colour fastness. I've never done it. It's a bit of an experiment. I don't see why it wouldn't work, and even if it doesn't really make any difference, I don't think it'll cause any problems. You know, I think the worst thing that can happen is that nothing will happen. So that's my first dye experiment. I'm going to continue with the Shetland wool, wherever I've put that. I'm going to continue doing like 20 gram mini skeins of that might go into either that Dodie or the Mortmain that I talked about, or just as experiments to have that I'll use at some point. Maybe make like a Stella quilt cushion or something. I've thought about doing something like that in the past. And then the last thing I want to do is, I showed this before. This is a quilt I started to make after I'd been to Barcelona, inspired by some benches in Park Güell, which were designed by Gaudi. And they were like mosaic benches, but they had different coloured moon shapes in between all the different colours. And so this was the first time I'd done a curved seam, like a circular seam. And although these aren't necessarily my favourite, although the more I look at them, when I look at them, I think, oh, actually, they're not as horrid as you keep thinking they are. They're a bit bright for me, I think, is the problem. But actually, I do quite like them when I look at them. So I kind of wanted to finish that, but I do want to do more quilts with circles in, more curved seams. So I thought I would dye some fabric up with a circular resist. I've done this before, and I'm pretty sure I've got a picture of it. I made a hot water bottle cover, and I made a little quilt for my son, I think for his 2nd birthday. He's just turned 6, so yeah, I did quite a lot of dyeing a few years ago. So I thought I'd do some more. So my husband cut me out circles of different sizes. They're a bit, I've got too much stuff. They're a bit rough and ready, but I don't really think that matters. So I've got some bigger ones, some medium ones, and some smaller ones. And you need 2 per bit of fabric. Well, not like individual piece of fabric. You'd probably have a little stack of them together, but not too many. You need the dye to get into the bit that isn't clamped. So basically, you have your fabric, you put it between the 2 like that, and then you have a G-clamp which clamps them together, so that fabric inside shouldn't get exposed to the dye. When you dip it in, the fabric around the outside should dye, and then when you take it off, you get a circle shape that is undyed, so it should look like a moon. That's where I'm going with it. So I might like some, you get this shape but without the seams in the middle. Obviously this is bigger, but you'd just get like a floating moon. But I might make some that I then cut up, because I have this notebook, I think I just got from a supermarket. And this is the notebook that I use for my notes for my podcast, but also this bit here is my yarn survey, where I keep track of yarn that I've brought in and yarn that I've gone out, because I wanted to end this year with like a net negative. So I want more yarn to have been used up and gone out than I've replaced it with. So I keep that in here, but I just really like the way you have this circle image that has then been cut up and sort of irregularly sewn back together. So I think I want to do a quilt with that sort of idea. So I would get the resist circles, and I might do some in indigo, and I might do I've got some oak galls, so I might do that, and then that gives you like a brown colour, like a tannin colour. But if you dip it in iron, quite often tannin based things will go grey, so I'd get a darker, which I think is what I did last time, if I managed to find a picture of that. So yeah, that's where I'm thinking with that. I do have a lot of sort of half-hearted quilt projects on the go, which I could do with this being one of them, that I could do with finishing up, but I don't know, I feel a bit lackluster about everything, you can probably tell, which I think is because I'm missing knitting, and really I just want to sit and knit for hours and hours and hours, and I can't even do it for 2 minutes. I'm just not doing it at all, because to be honest, even thinking about it hurts. So I'm just thinking, you know, short-term loss of knitting hopefully will result in a long-term gain of my hands getting better and being able to get back to it, but we will see. Now, I've done an hour, I'm going to stop. I'm aware that I am I'm hoping it's been all right. I feel it might be a bit chaotic, a bit rambly, a bit all over the place. I know I missed out this fabric, which is just like an unbleached cotton, very slubby, and it has these little brown motifs in and this really lovely brown edge selvage to it. And that's quite thin and lightweight. I think I've got 1.5 meters of that, and I would like to make some sort of blouse or top. I don't usually make tops out of cotton, because I think I'll have to accept that I need to do like button plackets and maybe collars and maybe cuffs, and I find all that a bit nerve-wracking, but I think I'm going to be brave and give it a go, and I think this would be nice, and again it would look nice under this, and it would look nice under that. So hopefully brown, cream and pink with the odd spot of green isn't too boring, but I think it's important for me that I make stuff that kind of will go together. And I do have like other things, like I'm really hopeful that I'm going to get a bright red top, but I think you know, I want to make things with some intention and not just make something that can only be worn with one other thing. I want to try and avoid that. I've done it in the past, it's a bit of a trap. So anyway, I'm rambling, which I just said I wasn't going to do. I hope you've seen some things here that you enjoy, that you like, that maybe you'd think, oh yeah, I might like to make that too. Let me know if you have made any of those things, particularly like the Aura dress versus, or the Aura pinafore versus the Ginkgo pinafore. Have you made either of them? Would you make either of them? Which do you prefer? Advice very welcome, and advice on that easy V pullover, like should I reknit it and change the colour for the main body, the ribbon in the main body. If I ever get back to it, I don't want to knit it all and then think, no, I should have done it. But I also don't want to pull it out if actually I do really like it, but I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to say it for the 3rd time now. I'm going because I'm rambling. I hope you have a super duper day. The sun is just trying to peep out at the minute. I hope it is shining on you wherever you are. Take care, and I'll see you back soon, hopefully with a normal podcast episode. Bye.